Alright everyone, welcome to my interview project on modifying assessment for low-level readers. The teachers I interviewed were Jennifer Sinclair and Sandra Dalton, both exceptional education teachers, and Margaret Swanson and Mary Taby, language arts teachers. So, my first question was, how do you identify those who need modification because of their low reading level on the assessment? The unanimous answer, of course, was IEP students. Obviously, if their IEP states that they need modification on their tests, then we need to give it to them. But they also mentioned that students that score low on language arts tests also may need modification of some sort. Basically, they said, do some formative assessment, get to know your students, know what they need, and give it to them. That's a key theme we'll see later, is always getting to know your students, know what they need, and give it to them. Now, most assessments, many people think of multiple choice questions. So how would we modify those for low level readers? Well, one of the most basic things is to reduce the number of questions. I normally start off with 4 questions, so in that case you'd reduce it to 3 or even 2, depending on what the student needs. One of the things they did make very clear, though, is to keep the quote-unquote near distractor. This is the answer that is almost right, but not quite. The one that is very close to the right answer, to give them an actual thinking and continue to think at the same difficulty level, but just to remove some of the clutter and to improve readability. So the second type of assessment, how would you modify short answer questions, and would you even use them? Well, of course, the answer again is know your students. It depends. Most of them, though, could still use some form of short answer. Basically, remove some of the clutter, focus in on the key items, and focus more on a cognitive level. So, focus more on your content knowledge rather than the ability to read. Another suggestion would be, instead of using a full essay, to do fill in the blanks or sentence starters, where you give them the first chunk of the sentence, like I find specific gravity by, and then have them fill in the rest. So it's not a full out essay, but it still gives you the feel of a short answer. Next up, we have, how do you tell what a student's best effort is on a short answer question? This one has always given me rather big trouble. And again, it is getting to know the student. If you know what they need and what they can do, then you'll know whether or not what they gave is their best effort. And apparently, many times, you can just ask the student and they will actually tell you whether or not they did their best on it. Another way that you could try it is to create a baseline sample. Basically, you choose a topic, have it be sort of free, open-ended, and have them write on it, and make sure that the topic is something that they know, so they can write easily without having to deal with too much content. That way, you'll have something to compare it to. So in the future, you'll know that by comparing the two, whether or not the future work is their best effort, or they just weren't feeling it that day and didn't put as much effort as they should. 5. How do you create and give multiple tests without drawing attention to special needs students? Drawing attention to the fact that they need special effort it's really not a good idea in special education. And of course, with modifying tests, you're going to have tests that are different from the normal test. Um, so, how do you give them without drawing attention? Classic technique is to deal from the bottom of the pile. You just kind of sleight of hand, have them look the same, but just give them the bottom version, which is a different set. You can also ask them what they need. Sometimes students, even though they're qualified for it, don't necessarily feel like they need it for that particular assignment. And if they don't want it, don't give it to them. Also, one of my teachers mentioned that she just gives so many versions of the test and they all look relatively alike that the students can't tell who has modified and who doesn't. 6. How do you phrase complicated concepts so that low-level readers would understand them? Key to this one is to chop it up, pretty much. If you make it into small individual chunks that they can understand, you can then string them together to form a unified whole. Second thing, which is good learning overall, is to relate the new knowledge to current knowledge. Not only will this form connections and strengthen their learning overall, but it will allow them to understand it better, even though it's a complicated new topic. 7. Now, we have tests, but there are more than just the regular short answer or fill in the blank. So what are some other assessments that would be good for low-level readers? Well, sometimes if you add a picture option or part of the test, they can draw it and explain it using diagramming. Again, a little bit more different modalities of learning can help. And sometimes there are various online programs you can use. Our school has several different reading programs that we do, and that will actually level itself to their level and make sure that they can actually do it. 8. How would you set up a reading assignment for a low-level reader? A lot of times, working with peers can help out, where if you pair them with someone who's at a higher level, they can help each other to understand it. And also, if you have a lot of time, you can record the text itself so they get it more auditory rather than having to read it. That would help with things where the reading is not as important as the content, which is the case for most times. 9. How can I make sure the reading level of an assignment is appropriate for low-level readers? Well, this one, actually, technology is our best friend. As you can see, there are two different websites where if you'll plug in a chunk of text, it will actually give you the reading level by grade as to which one they should be. And even if you don't have access to the internet, Word, under its tools, if you highlight a block of text, one of the options will give you the real readability level. And so you can actually peg it to the student's abilities. 10. Is there anything else that we need to know? Here, again, we see know your students. Go with what works. If it's working, yay. If not, change it. Trust your instincts, because you know when something's wrong or when something's right. Go with it. Don't double guess yourself. And of course, take the best they can give, which is great teaching advice anyway. Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed my presentation, and have a nice day.